know what's most important for the hazards that your area faces. And then what you see as important, like for community assets. And then if you have ideas on mitigating them, you know, feel free to, you know, share those with everybody too. Who would like to go first?
I live in the north end, and our problem is with a lot of flooding, and it comes right down. I live on Pitt Street, it comes right down my street. The manhole comes up to that high. I get it, my neighbor, her husband is disabled. And everybody in the north end where I live, the whole yard just gets flooded. Right now, if you walk in front of my house, all you hear is that. Because when the water comes down and takes everything, it's sleeping under the dirt and it's taking dirt away. So now I got sinkholes in front of my house. So we all got to do time, or we all got to like stand together and do time, because they ain't worrying about us. You know, our taxes go up, we got to pay. We don't pay, they take our houses. But when we have problems like this, and my house stinks. Yeah. I got to have a nice candle when you walk through. It smells sewer, because the sewer overloads through that whole area. Our dirt, our road is just coming apart. It's just bad. It's just bad up in the north end. So I don't know anybody else up in the north end has that problem.
So who would like to go first? Maria or?
I just wanted to say something about the north end, because I live in the north end, I work in the south end. So Chopsy Hill Road, that floods. All the manhole covers at top when it rains, not major storms either. And then there's also that stinking along Old Town Road, that sewer smelly smell. And it smells really bad. And then Reservoir Avenue, next to Beardsley Terrace where the garden is, they have heat emergencies. So the public garden that there has had to close down several times because the temperature is over 104 degrees at the top of Reservoir Avenue. Then at the top of Main Street, it ices. And you have all these accidents that happen, and the police can't get there
because of it's too, they can't get up the hill.
No, and plus they have so many accidents, like they just get all backed up. People lose control at the top of Main Street over by Old Town Road. Yeah.
The heat emergency was top of Reservoir, right?
Yeah, heat emergency at the top of Reservoir. They were telling me, because I was supposed to have an appointment there one day, and they said they had to close because it was too hot. It was like 4 or 5 at the time.
Maria? Yes. Hi, I'm Councilwoman Maria Ferrer. I represent the Upper East Side. I'm Nelson Latham. I live at 251 Howard Road. So we have the Upper East Side. If you don't know, if you come to the intersection of Boston Avenue and East Main Street, heading towards Beardsley Park. Once you cross Boston Avenue, you are now in the Upper East Side. If you're going down towards Boca and you cross Boston Avenue and East Main Street, you're in the Lower East Side. We have a lot of assets. We have Beardsley Park in our district. We have Remington Woods, which is the largest landmass in the city. And one of the largest land masses in Fairfield County that's not been developed, and it should never be developed. It has over 300 natural species there, has its own ecosystem. It's critical to purifying our air. We have the highest child asthma rates in the state. And it doesn't just do that for Bridgeport, it does it for all of Fairfield County. It's over 400 acres in total between Stratford and Bridgeport. There's actually a 40-acre lake there. Most people would never know that. It was contaminated by Remington, who was, testing munitions there and grenades. It's owned by one of the largest polluters in this country, famous for polluting, their kind of attitude. It's owned by DuPont. They have million shell corporations as fronts for DuPont, but DuPont is famous for massive polluting, violating every kind of law there is, and their philosophy is, we're going to do it until you catch us. Then you'll find us and we'll do something. So, there's a plan underway by this administration to support developing Remington Woods. For those of us who live here, we're totally against it for multiple reasons, the reasons I shared. But we know the more trees you remove, the more asphalt and concrete you put down. That's why urban centers have so much flooding, right? And if you take down thousands of trees, you're gonna create more flooding, which we've had major problems with for two reasons. We have the state streets right along here. You ever familiar with Virginia, Louisiana, Texas, Pennsylvania, Ohio? They're the lowest point in the Thomas Hooker precinct. So you have this brook that starts up here in Trumbull. Okay, starts in Trumbull, winds down all the way through the neighborhoods, people's yards, the side of their yards. And when we have torrential rains, which she's right, these storms used to happen once every 50 years, they're happening very frequently. All that water rushes down, sewer systems are antiquated, they can't handle it. And where do they settle? In the state streets. So we've had to rescue people out of their vehicles there. I've seen people's washing machine and dryers floating, massive mold damage, water heaters, furnaces. People lose everything. So it's a major problem. And then of course, Remington Woods sits right behind all the state streets. You don't have these problems on this side, closest to Beardsley Park, but on this side of East Main Street, all the way from, Huntington Turnpike, all the way up to past Dairy Queen. Every one of these streets on the left, if you go to the end of the street, it's bordered by Remington Woods, and Remington Woods is at an elevation. So you guys know water. When water wants to get out, it's going to find out a way. It's like your bathtub. And so when we have torrential rains, even now, it's flooded all along the state streets. Where's the cemetery? The cemetery. So the cemetery got flooded because. Okay, what's so crazy is here's the cemetery. They just bought this parcel right here. As you can see, it's going to be in a flood area. They just bought this parcel to expand the cemetery. And then we have a lot of assets because we have Nobbville Park. We have a brand new Beardsley Library all around the state streets. Okay. And then you have Success Park. We have the largest number of schools in the city concentrated in the JFK campus area. You have High Horizons, you have Multicultural Magnet, you have Thurgood Marshall, which is a state-run magnet school, but still school. Right next to it, you have Bull Haven Tech. Then a block and a half away, you have the New Harding High School. So you have a massive cluster of schools, thousands of students there. What else do we have? We have Success Park, which is next to Success Village. Success Village is the largest housing unit complex in Connecticut, not just Bridgeport. It has over 900 units, with some being in Stratford, but most being in Bridgeport. It just became the largest residential taxpayer in Bridgeport now, taking over 3030 Watermark. So we have tons and tons of assets, I feel, but we're not doing a good job. And I will tell you, this tributary, this brook from Trumbull, is the least studied brook according to our own city engineer. Almost nothing has been done to study this, yet it's constantly devastating. People have lost all their cars in their house for parking in their condo parking. That was their a bad thing they did. They just parked where they were supposed to. So, and look at her house. She bought her house on Holland Road. And from a mayoral candidate who did disclose the house has massive flooding. And she now lives in the house. And it's I mean, this poor woman.
It gets to the point now, it don't have downpour. It just rain, it just floods. It's just like gates just open up.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I will tell you, this administration has not spent $1 in 8 years we just put $250,000 in the bond report for next year to start to do a study. And these people have experienced this in the whole 8 years.
Yeah.
I've been, really involved in that neighborhood. So you can see there's a lot of value in this neighborhood. It's a lovely, Thomas Hooker's a lovely neighborhood, and JFK is much more dense housing. You have Success Village, you have the largest bastion of senior and disabled housing in the city on one block between Augustana Homes and Fireside. A lot more dense apartment buildings. You don't see that in Thomas Hooker. It's much more one family. So they're very different from each other. But anyway, we have a lot of assets and we are not doing anything. I shouldn't say we, this administration is doing nothing. And that's the truth. Nothing to help maintain the quality of these neighborhoods and more importantly, people's homes. This is where people want to feel safe in their own home, a place of respite and a peace. So that's kind of everything. I don't mean you by saying the administration.
Can you,
Just very nervous.
point that tributary out for me? I want to make sure I'm taking the right notes. Thank you.
Yeah, right.
My name's Tom Morris, and I live in Seaside Village, South End. We have Seaside Park, that's a great asset. But the main thing that I'm concerned about is flooding. It's like everybody else, I guess. When it rains hard, our basements in Seaside Village flood. Sewer lines cannot take the additional water. Nobody's done anything about that. Also, we tried to get flood insurance for our community. Our flood insurance was $190,000 for Seaside Village. That was last year. This year, we wanted $650,000, which we can't afford. So I think one thing that we need is adequate flood insurance and affordable flood insurance. Somehow, federal sponsored, state sponsored, I don't know. I don't know the answer, but I do know we need it. That's all I'm gonna say about flooding. It's our biggest problem.
I have, I have flood insurance and when it happened to me, they didn't want to cover, they said that wasn't covered. Why?
I don't know why.
No, I'm just saying, sometimes you could pay for something.
Usually, if you do have flood insurance. All right.
So I'm Vanessa, I'm the president of the West Side NRG, so I'm covering the west side over here. And so our assets are, that I feel like over the years, we've had more homeowners take really great pride in their homes and their yards. Things look a lot better. We also have some businesses in the neighborhood that keep up with their property, so that's really great. We have flooding issues, more so over at Norman and Iranistan area. That floods all the time. It's always being reported. And Commerce, I know it's a state road over that way. State and Fairfield are a state road, but near exit 25 going south, that's a flooding problem. Another problem with the heat is that the bus stops down along State Street don't have covered bus stops. And I see people all the time crossing the street to find shelter or going somewhere else to find shelter until they can get the bus. They see the bus coming and they run out and get on the bus. But it's, and then also they're not covered in the rain. And then there's this West Side borders an industrial area over towards Black Rock, and there's loud noises. South End hears it too. There's this loud noise coming from Wheeler Grader, we think it's coming from at different times or throughout the day. And it feels like it's right in your backyard. We also there's not enough garbage cans throughout the city, so that's part of the problem that contributes to trash that blows around. Not enough things to stop that from happening. And then,
Drains too.
yeah. Oh yeah, right. We talked about that. And it goes into the drains. And then the road signs, the lack of road signs. And some people need, some areas need stop signs or traffic lights. It's Mountain Road and Fairfield Avenue. When you're coming from the side streets, it's very hard to see because we have such a congested city. The cars block your view as another car coming out. And so it's always tricky. So those are the highlights.
And another thing, littering, it's a small thing, but it's a big problem. And any good city should be clean.
Absolutely.
And people just throw stuff on the ground and walk away. We should do something about it. Police should be allowed to at least give them a ticket, and maybe stop it.
My brother is in New York State, correct? And somebody right at the bottom of Railroad after Main Street, Some guy one day was with a dump all this stuff out, and my
Yeah.
brother got out of his car with his New York, made the guy get out of his car and pick it all
Well,
up.
that's what should happen with our police.
Yeah.
Our police are nervous to do that because the police don't have power. I don't want it to be a police state, but police need power. I'm
And
done.
we can hold on to this, right? We want to hold it. No, we want to hold up. Okay, yeah. So I know you spoke a lot, but is there anything else that you want to highlight at your table and with your map?
Yeah, so, one of the things.
Yeah, I'll be up in a minute.
One of the things we didn't talk about were the assets. So the south end is mentioned assets, right? We're on the Bridgeport Harbor. We have,
Back a little bit, it's recording
oh,
still.
sorry. So the south end has a lot of assets. It's on the harbor, it's on the sound, it has Seaside Park. It also has UB in that campus. Also, the south end has over 100 structures that are listed or eligible for the National Register of Historic Places, which would open it for development with preservation tax credits and preservation development funds. But we haven't taken advantage of that for the most part. So the seaside, it has a lot going for it. When PSEG brings the coal plant down, there's an opportunity to reopen the south end to the harbor again. And that would be a wonderful way to use it for the neighborhood, to be able to open it to the harbor. And also that property could be used for commercial development instead of putting it in Remington Woods. All right. So the problems that we have are flooding. We have flooding in the south end that comes from the north, the riverine flooding that comes over the harbor on the east, and storm surges and flooding that comes up from the sound. So it's not enough to just say, well, we'll do something on the edge of the park because we also get flooded from the north and from the east. And so what kinds of things are people concerned about? They're concerned about the impact of building Bassett in a flood zone. That's a major project, over $125 million, elevating land 20 feet up. So that's going to kind of add, somebody said water goes somewhere. When they dead end those streets, they're effectively creating a dam. So where does the water, where's it going to flow and how's it going to get out of the neighborhood? Right. One of the other problems we have are street closures, both permanent ones that are getting dead ended. Also, UB has closed a lot of the streets, and then they're going to close more for Resilient Bridgeport and for the new high school. So the question becomes, what is a real life evacuation route? And how do large rescue vehicles get into the neighborhood in a timely fashion? So if we should have major disaster, like another railroad derailing that happened, before, if there's a problem at the gas plant, if there's, again, flooding, but get warning for that, if you evacuate, what will happen if there's a major emergency? How do people get out? How do emergency vehicles come in? The other problem is that we still, the underpasses under the railroad, they still become impassable. And then simple things like when the arena is having events, they close off the streets that give you a direct route into the south end. So like there was one of the neighbors who couldn't get her medicine because he couldn't get into the neighborhood, right?
It'd be like Hawaii.
Right. So that's one of the things we're worried is it could be like Hawaii. If there's a fire or something like that, how do we get out? Then let's see, what do we have here? Oh, the beach. We were talking about how we remembered a lot more beach when we were kids. And so someone in our group pointed out that the beach is gone, that they used to dredge and they used to replenish the beach. And so like the spot where we used to go is not even there anymore. Then Seaside Park also floods on just even normal days, so that the band shell is like an island in the middle of a lake. And so that's one of the things. What else is on there? Huh? Oh, yeah. So Resilient Bridgeport is a state plan, but it also calls for municipal cooperation. So when they do come up with hopefully an updated Resilient Bridgeport, because it's obsolete now, because it's taken so long, and because there's going to be the 60 acres on the harbor and the building of the Bassett High School, and there's like 10 years more data and research on flooding and all that anyway. There's a certain part of it, the maintenance, the city has to pay for. So if they put flood hazard mitigation in, then it's the city's responsibility to pay for the maintenance of it. If the city doesn't pay for the maintenance, they're probably not going to be able to put it in, right? So could there be some kind of jobs program, training program that teaches our folks and gives them work to keep this system maintained? And the flood insurance issue is also one on our side too. Yeah, so what's happened is some people can't afford the insurance, so they sell their houses. Then you get these out of town people. They're using the houses as like rooming houses, and then that impacts the quality of life of the people around them. And we've noticed a lot more tagging in the neighborhood as well. So I think that's everything. Thank you. That looks like everything. All right. Thank you for one thing. Yes, I want to know. Do you want to make this?
Oh, yes.
Are there any questions, other points people want to bring up?
Yeah, it's one, Tom brought up about the litter. I know it sounds crazy, just litter, but the source system, the litter gets down in the source. What happens, you look up a 12-inch hole, that's maybe 6 inches down. So that water, and plus the pipes in our city, I'm sure are broken, many of them. But the litter is putting a plug into the source system, and it causes the flooding back up. That's where's the water going to go? Once those sores are filled up, they come up on the street, and that's where you get a lot of bacteria. You get a lot of smell and everything else that goes along with that back. So I know it sounds crazy, just a litter, but I remember as a kid, there was always people cleaning up the streets, city guys running around, cleaning the streets up, and it's not happening that way. And they're having garbage cans around the city, more garbage cans. That'd be great, but you have to have city workers coming maybe twice a week to clean those garbage cans, dump them, and so it doesn't overflow or it goes into the streets again. So that's my
That was a big
take on everything.
push.
Pardon me?
Under the previous administration, huge push to beautify and
Right. I mean,
garbage everywhere.
it's just the city is an old city, but it's still a nice city, and it could be nice. But if you got litter there, it looks like shit. Excuse my language.
Excuse yourself.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has any comments they want to make? Anyone?
When is the next meeting?
You have to schedule the next meeting.
All right, when could we see this online, like you say, you're gonna?
Most
So
likely
what we
within a
doing-
week. It'll within a week, it'll probably be published online. It'll appear on the Natural Hazard Mitigation Planning page for the city of Bridgeport under the Sustainability Office. And then MetroCog might publish it online. And then we might also send out a press release on the city with the survey as well as the link to the recording.
We've had a lot of meetings and internally in the office with all the funding out there. We've been working on a lot of grants. So I apologize if we haven't done a good job updating the website. We'll be, more intentional and mindful of that. And then, people are out sick and all that. So we'll do our best to keep that updated. If you want to be on the mailing list, just indicate that. We use MailChimp. I hope it doesn't wind up in people's junk boxes. there's a chance it may. Just, reach out and remind me, we'll try to fix that. And then probably the next meeting is going to be in a few months. We want to, present all of the, different strategies, where we've seen vulnerabilities and everything. We want to get that out for everybody to review and comment on. There's kind of an urgency with this. We have, each town has to have an up-to-date natural hazard mitigation plan. The current plan expires August 2024, so we need to have like the first approval, like the first local approval on a plan by like mid-August 2020 or early August 2024. That being said, we want to get this into FEMA within like February, March timeframe, because both the state and FEMA have to review the plan. And everybody knows how long that could take. So again, we just want to make sure that we are meeting the requirements, but also more than meeting the requirements, that we have a meaningful plan.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
If anyone has additional thoughts, please feel free to share them through the survey link. Feel free to take those handouts with you. The survey is on that QR code. You can also reach out to me on the website, on the City of Bridgeport website. And hope to see you all at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, if you